Welcome back to another episode of I Know, a Solo Beatles video cast where we talk all things solo Beatles. Now, today we are breaking the grounds because I actually have two co-hosts with me, and this is the first time I've ever done this. First of all, we have Jude Kessler. She is the author of John Lennon 1980. I'm not saying Ken Womack's book. The John Lennon series.
I would claim that book, believe me, big time. No finer book was written than Ken Womack's John Lennon 1980. So if he wants to cede it over to me, I'll be glad to take it.
I literally just got an email saying that I got a review copy like 2 seconds before I hopped on the Zoom call. So
good. It's so good.
And we have Leana Stagg, the author of Recipie Records cookbooks. And there are some really good looking recipes, and I cannot wait to make the flaming hot wings from the Beatle one.
Yeah.
So, and she is in George Harrison land and John Lennon land. So, I mean, so first of all, I want to just have you guys, I just want you guys to talk about your podcast. She said briefly.
Go, Leana.
Well, I think we have hosted close to 50 shows.
Oh, wow.
And she said, and of course, you know, the what sparked our interest in doing a show was I Love Revolver. And I said, Jude, we gotta have a podcast and name it She Said. That's like it written in the stone for us. So that's kind of how it came about. And of course, you know, we integrate our passion for our books, and we love all of the guests that we've had on the show. They're just amazing people. And so we're a good team on it. Actually, I would say Jude does about 95% of the work and I show up. So
she is the voice of radio. Can you hear how good she is?
Yes.
See, I have the annoying, twangy Southern accent. And when Leana opens and closes the show and does the bulk of the talking, because people would be like, I'm not listening to that podcast if I have to hear that Southern chick anymore. So I do the groundwork part of it, and she is our grammar girl, and she's good.
Jude is very, very, very good at developing the show. That's a really hard thing to do.
It is.
You know, Hudson. It's very difficult, and you know, we just really have a good time with it. And we've had some tremendous guests in the past, and we have tremendous guests coming up this year too. It's really exciting, and it is the people, our readers that enjoy our books, just go crazy about the guests that we have on the show. And so it's just a real passion of ours.
Last year was like our best because we did the Beatles family. So we had Rogue Best and Chaz Newby, who played bass with the Beatles back in the Stu Sutcliffe days, and Angie and Ruth McCartney and Julia Baird and Helen Anderson, John's best friend at Liverpool College of Art. I mean, it was like dream come true land. So it'd be hard to top that this year. We're going to try, but it's going to be difficult.
Hey, I mean, don't ever hack into my contact list because there are a lot of people in there. And I mean, it's crazy. Once you get the guests, you don't stop.
If I could hack, I would be hacking right now.
Do you find that hacking stuff on the black web? Dark web? I mean, that's where we're at.
Yeah.
You have no worries from us.
Yeah. Okay, good, because they're mostly Paul contacts.
Oh yeah.
So first of all, I want to just briefly mentioned 3 news items. This is probably going to be more of Lena's interest, but did you see the other All Things Must Pass colored variant? And what is your whole stance on this box set?
I think that, you know, at first when they started putting together box sets and stuff, I thought, oh gosh, you know, it's another box set. But the remastering that goes into it, and all of the items that they put in there are, it's just, you know, I just always say the word magical that goes with George Harrison, because it just, it brings his spirit back to life. You know, it makes you feel like he's still here. And so I love it when they put all of that, all those things together. I have not had a chance to go through all of it, but that's on my list. And but I do enjoy so much of that, and it also gives young fans such as yourself a perspective to look at all of the gear and everything, and build your passion for it, as we did when those albums and such came out.
Yeah, I mean, are you going to buy the Uber crate, the $1,000 one?
Yeah, it's probably a no. I don't know. Maybe I'll win it at Dunkin' Donuts.
See? She's the fun one.
Yeah, I've got like 4 hours of sleep. And,
Yeah.
That's a dangerous thing.
Yeah. Yeah, there was a new colored vinyl variant that's online exclusive. My poor wallet. Well, my wallet cannot stop from crying.
It gently weeps.
Yes, because I really want to just buy that crate and like rent it out to people so they can like live in it. Because I mean, it is like full person size, and I'm sure I could fit in it. I mean,
You keep spending, you may have to fit it.
yeah, I may. But I mean, I still haven't decided what I'll purchase. Probably just the vinyl LP set. And there was a Lennon pop culture figure that was announced from the Funko Pop. Jude, are you guys gonna pick it up?
I don't even know what you're talking about. Tell me this story.
Maybe I can try to show it from my phone, but literally 5 minutes before the show started, I was scrolling through my Instagram feed, and
You know, Hudson, you got to realize I live in 1965. In fact, last year I went to the store. When I'm immersed in these books, I'm not even in the real world. I went to the grocery store, and I guess it was a couple of years ago, and Leana and I were finishing up the last book. She edits, and none of us had had any sleep. We've been up all night for a whole month, I guess, a long time. We hadn't gotten any sleep. And I go to the grocery store and I write a check, and I write April the 19th, 1964. And the man goes, ma'am, he goes, first of all, it's not April. It's second of all, it's sure in 1964. So,
but it was this little figure, might show up, but
I can't see it.
it's just a little Funko Pop thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a bobblehead kind of thing or something.
Cameron, I think, collects those.
Yeah.
Cameron.
Yes.
How much is that baby?
I think it's like $20.
Oh, I might get that. I really try. I wish I could sweep the camera around this room and let you see. There isn't an inch of wall. Only the ceiling is open. It is covered in John Lennon plates and collectibles and paraphernalia and things from the 60s and the 70s. And there isn't a space. And now it's bled out into the hallway and into the family room and going all the way up the stairs. And I try now, I'm trying really hard to only get books, because I am just, there's no place for us to live. John Lennon lives in this house.
It's her office and library is like a John Lennon museum. It's pretty impressive. And
Yeah.
there's Beatles, she has Beatles stuff too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Not just John, but it's really impressive.
Yes. You don't have any of his hairs though, right? Like you don't have any of his hairs.
I have my most collectible pieces are I have the forks that he used on the Electra 2 in 1964 when they were on the North American tour. Betty Westmoreland Birdsall, who was the stewardess, saved them for all these years. And about 4 years ago, she gave them to me and said, I thought you were the only person that really could appreciate this. I have a little miniature liquor bottle that Paul McCartney drank on the plane. And they thought, the stewardesses thought that Paul was too young to drink and they wouldn't let him have anything to drink. And he wasn't. He was totally of legal drinking age, but they would say, no, go sit down. You can't have anything. So he took this bottle off of the stewardess's station and he opened it and was going to drink it. They took it out of his hand and she saved it all these years. I have that too. And I have a letter from the person that lived in Mendips after Mimi was gone. And she wrote me every single thing, the color of the cabinets, what the lumber room looked like, everything about the house so I could use it for the first book. And then she said, and if I give you this, do you promise to quit bothering me?
Oh boy.
Yeah, because I wanted to go in the house and it wasn't on National Trust tour at that time. And I begged and I pleaded. And she said, I only let my friends and family come in. And I said, I could be your family. I could be your friend. I sent her all these photos of me and she was like, okay, enough.
Oh man. This is going to be a fun show. Jude, you have lived. I think you have lived, and I think you've defined the odds of a Lennon fan, and I am very jealous.
I have had some good times. I'll have to tell you when we have longer about the happiest night of my life, because it ended in a fist fight, not with me, but it was over me, if you can believe it or not, in the John Lennon bar on Matthew Street, the happiest night of my life.
I hope it wasn't Lewison. Was Lewison involved? Was it Lewison and Spicer going at each other?
It was the owner of the John Lennon bar and Alan Williams.
Oh. So moving on, I think we'll skip the last news item. We're talking about the one and only White Album. Now, first of all, I want to ask you, Jude, where would you rank this in the Beatles canon? And Leana.
You want me or Leana? Which one of us do you want to answer it?
Both of you, but Leana, you go first.
Personally, I'm a Revolver girl through and through. So Revolver is 1 and the White Album is 2.
Good.
I have, when I was a little girl, the radio station at night, I would listen to the radio to go to sleep. And once a month, I thought the radio station was crazy because they would play all 4 sides of the White Album. And I always seemed to wake up when they were playing Revolution 9. And so it always freaked me out. But it was ingrained in my head somehow, all of those different sounds of the White Album. And when Jude and I went to Monmouth University a few years ago, 2018, I guess, for the White Album conference, it kind of all started to come back, and it was really peaked by the Esher demos and all of the lore that goes with the Esher demos. It was just absolutely lovely. It really, the White Album was kind of an almost circle, and the Esher demos just closed that circle. And I would say those are, I would have to rank it 2 just because I can't get off a Revolver.
Yeah. And Jude, what about you? Like, if you were ranking the Beatles albums, I know what Dead Last is.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. we are three different generations of Beatles fans because Leana and I are 10 years apart in age. So I'm a first gen fan. She's a second gen fan. And I would say you're probably what, fourth?
Yeah, I would say fourth.
Yeah, which is scary to think.
So we have all different perspectives. And I was a very conservative North Louisiana girl growing up in a small town called Natchitoches, Louisiana, which was the town in Steel Magnolias. And so you can imagine that after about Rubber Soul, when we get to Revolver, I'm like, what in the heck has happened to the Beatles? They are weird now. And I would think, what song can I like on this album? Because Tomorrow Never Knows. And she said, they're freaks. You know, it was a whole scary thing for me. So my number one favorite LP, which of course I didn't know until I was an adult, was Live at the BBC. Those are the boys I love. Those boys on the stage, in the cavern, in their leathers, throwing sandwiches at people and stopping the song in mid-song and switching. And those are the boys I love. I love With the Beatles. I love Please Please Me. I love Hard Day's Night. White Album was way down my list until, or probably wasn't even on my list, until we went to that Monmouth conference. And when we sat in that room, they made us come into a room at midnight. You couldn't go in before midnight. And we sat in these chairs around the room. And as you look around the room, you see Robert Rodriguez and Mark Lewison and Bruce Spicer and Scott Fryman and all the big guns of the Beatles world are sitting there with you. And they put on the remastered White Album. And we sat there for 2 hours, wasn't it, Leana? From midnight till 2 a.m. Yeah. And we're listening to this. And suddenly, you know what? I loved the White Album. But oh my gosh, I was, 60. So it took me a long time to love it. And I do love it now, but it sure took me a long time to get there.
It hasn't happened with Pepper yet.
No.
Okay. Even though that was my first Beatles album, it still is not my favorite.
It's and I'm glad for Paul fans, and I'm glad that they have that, and I'm glad that they love it, and more power to them. But it's a Paul-centric album, and this is not my cup of tea.
It's pop. It's mainstream pop, and that is what McCartney's strength is, and it still has lots of, it has a place in the Beatles, history. Yeah. But it's just sort of the mainstream.
But I couldn't live without Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Come on, that's a fantastic one, I think.
It is.
I concur.
And she's leaving home, but like Day in the Life, for example. I was out running the other night, and I don't know why I was thinking about this. I was thinking, why is Day in the Life always chosen as the number one rock and roll song ever written? Because it's okay. It's a true collaboration, and it has a very unique conclusion, but it's not the greatest rock and roll song ever written to me.
Thank you.
I don't get it. I just don't get it. So, I'm just not a big Pepper fan.
Yeah. It's overrated in a way. It is.
At the time, it made a splash.
Yeah.
You can't deny that in that moment, it had it.
Yeah.
You had Johnny Rivers singing in Summer Rain. Everybody kept on playing Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. It changed that summer. It was that summer. And I love the impact, but, I just, where's the John? That's what I have to say.
I will agree. It could have used more George too.
Oh, always. That's a patent answer.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to get your impressions of the remix, like, because it does get like Helter Skelter, which I think is a fantastic rocker. It removes the blisters on my fingers. I'm so tired. It removes the Paul is dead clue at the end. How did you guys feel about that?
I don't know, because when you listen to the first one so much, you have all of those sounds memorized. And if it doesn't happen, if you're listening and it doesn't happen the way you expect it to, your brain just goes like, what is happening? And what happens to me after that's, you've got this new version, I think, well, okay, I kind of like that. And I have always been so starved to hear something new in the Beatles, or, material that I've never heard before, that I find the remastering refreshing, and I do enjoy it. I don't know. I usually am going to go back to liking the originals, but the new stuff, it is intriguing, and it piques your ear, and I still think you can enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I'm grateful to the remaster, because I never would have become a fan of the White Album if it hadn't been for that weekend that we spent immersed. And I mean, it was immersed in the White Album. There were, at any given moment, from I think 8:30 in the morning until like 6 o'clock at night. And then at night, there were concerts and all kinds of things going on. There were 4 speakers speaking at one time on everything about the White Album that you can ever imagine. It was an embarrassment of riches. I mean, there were so many great things that you could have learned about the White Album. So I'm grateful to the remastered LP / disc / streaming / whatever for bringing that. But I tell you one thing, John Lennon would not have liked it.
He would hate it.
He would not be happy. When the first time that he ever heard Chuck Berry perform live, Chuck was vamping on his songs and changing them, and John is like, this is ridiculous. I don't want people to change their songs. I'm not a fan of the singer. I'm a fan of the song, and I do not want them to change their songs. It made him furious. So he would not have been happy.
Yeah, I agree. And so I think we should get into the songs, because this is a John versus George, and I am so torn on this issue. And first, so I think we'll start with Jude. Make your argument to say that John has the best songs on the album with your 2 picks.
Okay, I'll do that. Well, first of all, it's a John-centric LP. We haven't had one of those since Help. Right after Help, beginning with Rubber Soul, I'll tell you what did it. It was that day in June when they came back from lunch, and Paul grabbed his guitar, and as he did at the Wilton Garden Fete, puts his leg up on a chair and begins to play this solo song called Yesterday. And then Ringo says, well, I can't play drums on that. And George says, I can't add another guitar to it. And John says, well, it's a solo song, just do it. That was when the world shifted. And from that moment on, Paul McCartney was in ascendance, as John knew he would always be if he let him into his group. He knew he was a coup waiting to happen. So Paul goes into ascendance, and John begins to lose control of the group until the White Album. And he's back, Jack.
Yeah.
And in the White Album, he has enough songs that he could have a solo album from this. So I'm going to pick 2, not, if you said, what do you think about these 2 songs to most Beatles fans? They'd be like, well, they're minor songs. They're not really that significant. But I think too, that really proved his strength are first your blues. So if you want to really know about your blues, you can't be a music expert. The music experts all tell you that it's just a parody of the blues singers who were in prominence at that time. A lot of blues singers, like the Stones, for example, blues rock, were rising to prominence, and that John was making fun of them. He was doing a blues parody. Absolutely, completely untrue. There's an old phrase that says, when someone tells you who they are, believe them. And he's telling you he is depressed. He is suicidal. He talks many times about the fact, in fact, he says in Anthology, I was writing your blues when I was the most miserable. In your blues, when I wrote, I'm so lonely, I was so lonely, I want to die, I was not kidding. That's how I felt. Okay, so he's been in love with Cynthia Powell since the end of Term Bash in 1958. He's been married to her since August of 1962. Everyone will tell you, whether you talk to Larry Kane or to Tony Barrow, they will all tell you she was his center. She was his comfort, his peace. When he went on tour, he called her every single night from the tours that he went on. She would calm him down. She would keep him believing in himself. He's losing this girl who's been his best friend since 1958 and the only confidant he has. So even when he has the affair with Yoko and they sleep together and have that night where the sun is coming up and Cynthia comes in and finds Yoko in her bed wearing her bathrobe, the next day John goes to Cynthia and says, it meant nothing to me. And I want us to stay together and I want us to have another baby. And they, for 2 weeks, try to make their marriage work. So you got to realize this was not nothing to him. This was something. He is losing his marriage. It's falling apart and he's going to lose his son and his whole world is changing. And John did not like change. He was not one for change. He always wanted a new horizon and the next big thing and something new to conquer. But if you notice, if you watch John on tour, he wears the same clothes like 5 days in a row. He drinks the same thing, tea or Scotch and Coke. It has the same meals over and over. He's a samer. And now everything is changing. And he writes this song, which is about the depression he's going through. And it comes from his soul. And it's rated, let's see, I wrote this down because I wanted to be sure that I remember this to tell you. It is rated number 8 of the 30 songs on the White Album by Soulworthy of the Independent. And he says that John stands with the greats of blues like John Lee Hooker and Robert Johnson when he pours his gut out to you in your blues. He records this. He goes into a closet. They called it jokingly the Studio 2 Annex. It was really a closet off the control room. He closes himself in that closet with one microphone, and George and Paul and Ringo are right next to him, almost touching him. And the lights are dark. It's very dark in there. And he begins to sing this song about how he is thinking about taking his own life, about how he is lost, how he is scared. And it's the forerunner of what will someday become a song like I'm Losing You. It's just a great, truthful, guttural, raw blues song. Love, 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 love it. And by the way, I'm Losing You is my favorite John Lennon solo song. So you can see how they lead one into the other. But the other song is also from his heart. It's the very last song that they record on the White. It is John singing it alone in the studio. Paul is up in the control booth listening to him, but he's by himself. And once again, when someone tells you who they are, believe them. He's been telling you for years in I'll Cry Instead and Not a Second Time and I'm a Loser and Nowhere Man that he is wounded, he is hurting, he is a little boy lost, that from the day that his mother took him from his dad in Blackpool and he had to choose between the two of them and he chose his mother because she was crying. He chose his dad first, but then when he sees her crying, he goes with his mother. She takes him back to Liverpool. She drops him at his Aunt Mimi's house and walks away. And From that moment on, this little boy's heart is never whole again. So he begins to tell you how he feels, and he says it. This is his mission statement. This is as essence of John Lennon as you get. Half of what I say is meaningless, but I say it just to reach you, Julia. That's why I've done all I've done. You didn't love me. You didn't want me. I wanted you. You didn't want me. You hurt me then. You're back again when I'm a teenager, but oh no, not a second time. He's telling you who he is. It is so passionate and so real. And of course, he conflates Julia with his new mother, the woman he calls mother, Yoko, who is 7 years, almost 8 years older than he is, who also has seashell eyes, who also has a windy smile. And he conflates these two and sings this song of love. It is one of the most beautiful and sincere ballads that John ever did. And to me, if he hadn't done anything else in those two songs, he would have won my heart in the White Album.
Leana, I'm going to let you make your argument about George.
All right. Well, I was looking to see if I had brought my picture to have a little graphic, but I did not. So on the White Album, and prior to all the songs that they wrote, the Beatles had gone to Rishikesh, India, and they were getting inspired while they were there to write songs. And I'll go into that a little bit more on the next song, but one of the songs that kind of came out of that was after they got home, George was at his home and his friend Eric Clapton was over, and Eric was a chocolate freak. I find that so humorous to think that some slow hand god Eric Clapton was crazy about chocolate. But George Harrison had a box of these British Good News chocolates on his table, and Eric Clapton kept eating them. And George said, you're going to rot your teeth out. You need to stop it, man. And so that was his inspiration to write Savoy Truffle. Now, George only has 4 songs on the White Album. So Savoy Truffle is definitely the second best George song on the White Album. And the song is very hip, very trippy, and he brought in these musicians to play saxophone. They were professional musicians, and they played the saxophone. The sax is so kind of raw and dirty on the track, but they didn't play it like that. They played it very musically perfect, and like an orchestra would. And then George said, I'm sorry guys, but we're gonna put this, I don't know if it was some sort of an overdubbing or whatever he did to muffle that and make it a very raw, kind of a sexy saxophone sound. And it worked. It was brilliant. The lyrics are brilliant. Cream tangerine, it's very kind of psychedelic. It was just a very great song for the moment. So then the number one song, and in my mind, in my world, in my opinion, is the greatest Beatles song ever, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, which has been recorded and by all kinds of people. It is a very powerful, powerful song. So as I mentioned, when they were in Rishikesh, they were there because George really believed in the meditation, and he wanted his friends to come in and experience it and try to get some peace. And they'd had some really hard years and hard months, and he really wanted his friends to try meditation because it really helped George. And as we know, just because it helps your friend or it helps you doesn't mean it's going to help everyone else. And I don't think it did, but they still were there anyway. And so while he was there, he was getting irritated because Paul and John were writing songs. And George went to him and said, "You're supposed to be meditating. You're not supposed to be working." And so that was starting to irritate him. And he wrote the lyrics for "My Guitar Gently Weeps." And I don't have all of my facts in the same spot, but I believe that he had looked in a book and picked out the words "gently weeps," and he used that to form the lyrics. And it's really such a powerful song. And when when he records it for the Esher demo, it's just the acoustic, and it's really gripping. And I believe they use that version in the Love Show, and it just makes the hair stand on edge when you hear that. But then when they went into the studio and recorded it, he said to his chocolate freak buddy Eric Clapton, "Hey, why don't you play the lead on this? Because everybody's making me mad and nobody's getting along. Maybe if you're there, maybe everyone will chill out and let's do this." And oddly enough, all the years that I loved the White Album and I loved While My Guitar Gently Weeps, I never really paid attention to the lead guitar. I just thought, yeah, that's nice. It was the words that really resonate with me. But there is also a lot of strength in Paul's bass, his piano, and Ringo's drum. They're very I can't think of the word. I had it written down somewhere. but the that driving beat just it brings so much soul to the song. And it just really just kind of grips you. And later at the concert for George, whenever Eric Clapton and Paul and they all chime in and perform While My Guitar Gently Weeps, it's just how can anybody listen to that, or how could anyone seen that and had a dry eye in the place? I don't know.
I didn't.
It's amazing. It is so powerful. And so I don't know, Hudson, are you going to be the judge after we've made our case?
Leana, cover your ears because John wins. And now and nobody knew I was gonna do this. I'm gonna make an argument with I'm gonna make an argument with the three main Beatles, because why not? I think Paul's material is equally as good, except for the one Beatles song that I hate. Oh, I hate that song.
Hi. Who likes it? I don't know.
My good friend Andy Nichols.
Get on there. You're driving me crazy.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? What is wrong? Who was that? Did George Martin slip out that day and
pretty much?
What happened?
It was a forerunner of Give My Regards to Broadway.
Oh. Have you seen that movie?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. So
Anyway.
I'm going to start with Paul. The two, I think these are both top 10 Beatles songs for me. And the reason I really like Paul, one of the reasons, is that he's so diverse. And I feel like it's represented with his solo career. And I don't know how familiar you are, Leana, with his solo albums, but I mean, you went from like Ram which is very homespun. Then you went to Wildlife, which is so underproduced. And then you went to, I mean, then you got in the 80s and you went to Press to Play. I mean, everything is so diverse. And you go from a rocker like Helter Skelter, which is my first choice. And I think you mentioned that you'd seen Paul in concert, Jude. I mean,
Yes.
did he, what years?
Flowers in the Dirt, which was, what was that?
89.
Yeah. And then I went year before last, right before the lockdown, he came to Bossier City. And I saw him in what was almost a 3-hour non-stop concert. He never drank water. He never sat down. He jumped, he ran. I was like, whatever he is taking for vitamins, that's what I want to take.
Yeah. He like, I mean, maybe being a vegetarian is a good idea. I don't know. I wouldn't do well without bacon, but I mean.
He's incredible. And I'll tell you, I'll confess, the first time I saw him, it was in Raleigh, Durham at the Flowers in the Dirt there. For the drive from the arena back to the hotel, I had switched Beatles. Yeah. And I got back to the hotel. I was like, what am I thinking? I'm losing my mind, but he's good, man. He is good.
Wow. I mean, yeah. And I think musically, I think there's no arguing that John was the best in the Beatle years. Solo wise, I kind of change. But I mean, the man can go from one thing to another in 10 seconds. And I mean,
yeah, he's extremely talented.
Paul, if you're press agent or somebody, or if you are listening, please get in contact with me because I really want to know, did you break up the Beatles? No, you didn't. But I want to know what the songwriting to Vanity Fair was about. And everything. We can have about a 6.5-hour conversation about everything, Paul. But I mean, we know he's not listening. Let's just face it. He's probably at home watching his TV.
You don't know.
He's probably listening to She Said, She Said, as they should be.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
You're welcome. And moving on to second choice, I mean, Helter Skelter, I mean, amazing guitar. And I love how Ringo yells, only on the stereo version, I've got blisters on my fingers. I cannot hear that song without hearing that. And it's not a perfect song. But just and then you go to I Will, which I think is a beautiful ballad. Jude, are you a fan of I Will?
Love the song. Love
Thank
it.
you.
Absolutely love it.
Okay. And are you a fan of Helter Skelter?
Love Helter Skelter.
Okay. I can imagine you like going for a run, like headbanging to it.
I love Helter Skelter. It's a great song.
Yeah, you can't deny it.
It's great. It's great. You know?
And for John, I picked Dear Prudence, which I think it might be my favorite Beatles song. It's tied with I've Got a Feeling right now. I don't know why.
Really?
I don't know why. And it's and Two of Us and A Hard Day's Night and In My Life and Something.
I know it's going to change for about 6 decades. You're going to always have a favorite Beatle, and it'll change.
Yes, even if it's only for about 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, I love on the E-shirt, I love Junk. I think
my God,
Junk is magical. I love that song.
I do too, and it's better than the version on McCartney 1, which McCartney 1 is an album that gets very praised, and I think it's somewhat overrated, honestly. Except for the song Maybe I'm Amazed, which is the best song that he has ever wrote, and I mean, great vocals on that, but that's a whole other story. And the second song I chose was Glass Onion. which I think is just so versatile. And I don't know if you've heard some of Ringo's stuff in the last 20 years. He name checks about every Beatles song and every song. And it gets annoying after a while. I don't think I need to hear the song Rory and the Hurricanes again. Don't even bury yourself, Jude. That long playlist that I'm going to make you, it will not include any Ringo stuff from the last 20 years to save your ears. Well, except for the good stuff.
When did he write I can't take it no more. I'm tired of waking up on the floor. I like that song. When did he?
The 70s.
The 70s.
I like that one.
It's the one song. You like something from the 70s? What?
Yeah, well, I do like some stuff from the 70s. I like more of the hard rocking stuff from the 70s.
Oh, good.
But I don't like disco.
Okay. You Bob Dylan fan?
Not really. Now, I can listen to Dylan. He's okay. I don't think he's great. I don't know why he is considered such a great poet. I think he's okay. I know. I'm not really.
Again, it's like Sergeant Pepper. He's the Sergeant Pepper of folk. He was there at the right time, and
he's okay.
Yeah.
But
got a place.
Yeah.
I mean, okay. Paul Simon, when you listen to I Am a Rock, it sounds of silence. That is so much better poetry. Yeah. That is poetry.
Not a Paul Simon fan. He's okay.
But his lyrics, don't you think the lyrics are magnificent? A winter's dark December, I'm alone. I mean, it's just, it's
Boxer.
Good. Yeah. The Boxer.
Pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
Dylan and his wine and somebody did not shine him up very well. He did not have a very good producer. No George Martin. Whoever his producer was.
He self-produced half of his albums under the ego Jack Frost.
There you go. And there you have it.
Bob, if you're listening, we'll have a conversation. Email me.
Bob, if you're listening, you remember the night that you came to Monroe, Louisiana, and Enoch's Pub had a big listening party after your concert, and they had a sign up that said Bob Dylan party after the concert, and you drove up and told them you didn't want your name on that sign and to take it down.
That happened?
Oh, yeah.
Were you there?
Didn't Doyle try to talk to him or something, and he got kicked out by Doyle?
Yeah, Doyle Jeter, who owns Enoch's Pub, he's Enoch Doyle Jeter, went out and tried to placate him and said, "But man, we're honoring you. We're going to play all Dylan's songs, and we got all these musicians coming. No, I want my name off that sign." Whatever.
Robert Zimmerman listening party.
Yeah, that's what he should have done. That's exactly what he should have done.
Yes. As my cat is attacking a Bob Dylan CD.
She didn't confuse it for the litter box.
No, she did not. We would not be getting along if that was happening. So, and for George, Leana, I agree. While My Guitar Gently Weeps is the best, I will admit, it is the best song on this album, critically acclaimed.
Urgency, that's the word I was looking for. The sense of urgency with the drum and the piano. And that carried in, complemented his lyrics. But
it's my husband's favorite song of all time of the Beatles, guarantee you, no doubt about it.
Is your husband a big Beatles fan too?
He is 2 years younger than I am, and so he didn't have quite the impact. I mean, he loves Three Dog Night and people just a little bit later in that era. But of course, what can he help but be a Beatles fan? He lives with them minute by minute, so there's really nothing, but he loves George Harrison. George Harrison is his favorite. There's no doubt about it.
Good. Maybe he'll have to come on the show sometime.
He knows enough about the Beatles to come on the show, doesn't he, Leana?
Yes, and he knows the music so
Yeah.
well, and can critique it.
Good.
So.
And yeah, I pick Not Guilty. It's beautifully, and I prefer it to the version on George Harrison 79, which
Yeah, me too, by
that
far.
album I think
It was okay.
that is one of my top 10 favorite albums of all time, period. I think it's a masterpiece. I love the song Here Comes the Moon that was co-written with Stevie Nicks, interestingly enough. But that's a whole other story. And Stevie, as any other celebrity should, if you're listening, get in contact with me somehow. And we all know Yoko's listening. We all know. You never know.
You never know.
Yeah. I mean, have you ever seen Yoko in person?
No.
Would you?
Well, I have seen Yoko in person. I just lied. I saw her at the closing night of Lennon on Broadway.
Which was what year?
Oh, it would be, hang on, 2005.
So she was still pretty healthy at that point.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she walked in and sat down, and her bodyguard was with her, and she was like 4 or 5 rows ahead of me. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And had your first book come out at that point?
Oh, yeah.
What year was the first John Lennon book?
It's 30 some odd years ago, so it's been a long time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was, several of them were out. I think 2, maybe 3 of them were out by that. I know 2 of them were out, but maybe 3 by that.
Yeah, looks like we're adding a 4th co-host.
Who was that?
That's Petunia. Ringo was the best.
Petunia is a Ringo fan. I tell you what, you cannot go wrong with, and I know John wrote it, so I know that that's primarily why I like it. But Ringo did a beautiful job with Good Night. That is, you can't listen to that without tearing up.
Oh,
Yeah.
You can't. And I mean, you come out from Hectic Revolution 9 and then.
Yeah, it's gold star.
Yes.
I won't.
And it's for those of us who go to the Fest for Beatles fans, which is just like one of my favorite places on the face of the earth. They always play that as the very last song every night when it's time to close up. So it has a lot of good memories, especially since I can't go back. So it just is a very emotional song.
Yeah, I'm hoping I can go at some point.
Oh, you will love it. It's beyond the happiest place on earth.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Disneyland for Beatles fans, but
Right.
better.
Right.
And I know a lot of people would argue. But it's the Beatle Fest. I mean,
It's great. And everybody that goes there already knows who you are, and they already love you, because I've had so many people say how wonderful you are. You would be welcome with open arms.
and I got recognized for the first time at a yard sale. Like, no joke. I was at my grandparents and they were having a yard sale. Somebody from Massachusetts was like, "You do a solo Beatles podcast?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Oh, you're that kid."
I love it.
That's awesome.
That was real. That was really funny.
Well, they're having one October, I think it's the 4th through the 6th or something like that, in New Jersey. And that's not that far from you. So you should try to go.
Yeah, I mean, I will. I mean, I may have to get in an Uber crate and they might have to ship me there, but because I don't know if my parents would tolerate a weekend of Beatleness.
They have a good time. There are lots of things to do in the city. Go out and do stuff.
Yeah, I think that I already drive them crazy with the amount of Beatles music I play. But I mean, I'm still trying to convert them.
What kind of music do they like?
The modern stuff. and just like casual like radio. So we'll get there someday. I'll be like 25 and I'll be on the phone with my mom. She's like, they were okay.
Yeah, get the same exact thing on mine, was that they were hoodlums and I was going to ruin my life with them, and then I'd get smacked with a ruler. But it never did any good.
Your parents were not supportive of the Beatles.
No, they certainly were not. No, they were a lot of freaks, but that's okay.
Yeah, because I mean, when you grow up in, like as you said, when you grow up in a more conservative household, I mean, back then, I mean, conservative is a very different word today. I mean, conservative back then is even very conservative for now. And like being even left-winged is like almost right-winged now. It's crazy. Everything just changes.
It does. And my dad was a principal, a junior high school principal. And so, you remember what principals, well, you don't remember, but principals were pretty hard lines. So, that was not something that he wanted me to get involved with, were these Beatles. But anyway.
Yeah. I mean, so I think this about closes our show. And let's just say it's a tie between the three main Beatles. It's a tie. I think that except for Honey Pie, there is not a bad song on this album, including Revolution 9. And just to close out, what do you remember from the anniversary getting put out? Like the remaster, like, do you remember the hype around that? And how did you feel before you were a fan of the White Album?
To me?
Yes, to both of you.
You're talking about when they did the one that Leana and I went to in 2018?
Yeah, what are some other memories?
Well, of course, Leana and I have great memories of that weekend. I used to live in that area, and we took a foray back to the beautiful Delaware River Valley where I lived for 6 years. And we're both huge Chiefs fans. And so we got to see a Chiefs game on TV and listen to an Irish Cayley. And it was just a magical weekend. But what a weekend to hang out with and just be able to casually talk with people like Bruce Spicer and Jim Birkenstadt, our buddy Jim Birkenstadt, and Ken Mansfield just sitting around chatting with us and talking to us, and Mark Lewison and Robert Rodriguez. It was Jerry Hammock was there. Who else, Leana, was there?
Chris Thomas. He was one of the producers.
Yeah, my good friend Kid O'Toole, Tom Hunyadi, and Ken Michaels. I mean, they got to interview him. And yeah,
he's awesome. He did a lot of work with Pink Floyd.
Yeah. And he worked with Paul later in his career, which I would have been drooling asking him about that. But that's just me.
Amazing. It was one of the most amazing weekends I've ever spent.
Yes. And I think the second biggest John Lennon fan was also there, Susan Ryan.
Is absolutely, there's no doubt about it. She and Donna Patrone, I said the two of them are going to have to arm wrestle to decide who's the biggest John Lennon fan.
You just come in the middle and you're like, nope.
I'm fine with anybody that wants to be a John Lennon fan. I want everyone to be a John Lennon fan.
Good. As they should be. So I'm going to let you two plug your books. Leana, talk about your books for a minute.
So I have the series of rock and roll themed cookbooks, and Jude is my biggest fan, and she makes me feel really good about them. They are the first. I have 4, and the first book covers rock and roll and country and blues, and the recipes are all named after songs and bands. And before it was hip to make a playlist, we had playlists in our book. And then we did a 60s edition, and it has food and music of the 60s. Then there was a Beatles, culinary tribute to the Beatles. And so there's 50 recipes for 50 years of the Beatles. And those are stuffed Sergeant Peppers. And there is the Rolling Stones, Let's Spend the Bite Together. And that's big fun. So I did a short little chapter book for a fundraiser here in town, and it was light recipes and light rock. So it's sort of a precursor to my 70s cookbook that I can't wait to work on. And so you can find those at leanastagg.com.
I will link that in the description below. And Leana, how can we find you? Like, how can we contact you? Do you have a publicist?
I am at the Pit Barbell Club and Fitness Center 24/7.
Okay.
No, you can get in touch with me through Facebook Messenger. I'm on Instagram. So and Nicole Michael handles some publicity for myself and for Jude. So you can always get in touch with Nicole at
Nicole's awesome.
her, gosh, what's the name of her company?
910.
910 Public Relations.
Yeah. The one after 909.
And she is a big Beatles fan too.
Yes, she is.
Yes. And I didn't realize this, but you share a publicist with Ken Womack.
We do.
Yes. And I'll just hold up his book, which is
And Kiddo Tool.
Yeah.
There you go. And Jerry Hammock and Aaron Kedovich. A lot of people. She is a PR agent to the Beatles world.
Yes. She is like the Beatle publicity stuff.
Yeah.
And Jude, tell us about your books.
My books are a very unusual genre. They are all documented and researched, but they're presented to you as if you were reading a novel. It's called a historical narrative, which is different from historical fiction in that historical fiction embellishes and makes up things, which is great. That's wonderful. But this is the last book. This is just part of 1960. So you're getting an almost day-by-day account of what the Beatles did. And in the back of the book, there are 4,400 footnotes, because every sentence I have to tell you where I got that information from, that it's not made up, that it's from Lewison, page so-and-so, Spicer, page so-and-so. And so every sentence just about is footnoted and documented, but it reads like you would be reading a novel. There are 4 of them so far. The 5th one is coming out on John's birthday. The very first one Should Have Been There, which is his childhood in 10 years. This is my beat up copy, and ends the day that Alan Williams steps aside as their manager and Brian Epstein offers them a loose managerial agreement. The second one is 6163. This one is no longer in print, neither is the first one, but they are all available on ebook. If you can find a copy of this, grab it as fast as you can, because they're selling from $900 to $4,000.
Oh my gosh.
None of that. Zippity doo dah, none of that.
Yeah.
This is 61 to 63. This one I have 4 copies left of. I just found a box of books. She Loves You, which is 1963, and the first 2 months of 64 when they're on Ed Sullivan, Come to America, Carnegie Hall, that whole bit. And I mean, you're going almost day by day with them. And
yeah, the documentation is incredible, and you feel like you're right there, and it's documented, factual.
The slow writing process.
I cannot wait to read mine.
And then that's 19.
Love it.
So we're working our way through 1965. That's going to be a 2-part book, because there's just too much information. So part 1 is coming out in October, and part 2 will be another couple of years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Lewison style. And Lewison has quoted you many times saying, nobody researches like me. other than Jude Sutherland Kessler.
Well, and I've quoted him many times too. So, I mean, you can't go wrong with Mark Lewis, and let's face it, you can trust him to have the right answer.
So funny story. I finally got a library copy of Tune In, like no joke, 30 minutes before we started getting on the Zoom call. And
It's incredible.
that is what I am doing on my vacation, is reading Tune In by Mark Lewis.
Yeah.
And other books, hopefully.
Yeah. Well, he's not only the guru, the Beatles guru, but he is a good writer. And you usually don't get that combination of the two things. Usually the person they know what they're talking about, but they're a so-so writer, but you don't get that. You'll get both. You're going to love it.
Yeah. And I'm going to plug my stuff now. So you can get in touch with the show at I know podcast at iCloud.com. You can find us here, there, and everywhere. But that's you can find my website where you can see all our audio episodes. I'm still having trouble with Anchor, so this will probably just be a YouTube exclusive for now. But as for Leana Stagg, Jude Sutherland Kessler, and Hudson Ranney, we are saying have a great day.
Thank you so much, Hudson.